I want to go to Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, who is a former friend of Michael Jackson's and a spiritual advisor. Do you find it sort of mind-boggling? And by the way, HLN is very, very happy to have Dr. Arnie Kleiner, his representative, on anytime. We want to obviously get all sides of the story, so I want to put that out there. But Rabbi Shmuley, do you think it sort of boggles the mind that this guy is ordering 155,000 milligrams of propofol in the months leading up to Michael Jackson's death, and he is injecting and giving Michael Jackson all of these drugs right before he dies, and yet he's the one who's claiming, oh, I was trying to wean Michael Jackson off the drugs. I'm the savior here, not the villain. Do you buy it?
I thought that Ed Chernoff's opening defense statements were such an indictment of his client that it was painful to even listen to. He basically said that Michael told Conrad Murray, I cannot fall asleep without propofol, and Murray agreed to administer it. What if Michael would have said to him, I can't fall asleep unless I take a giant sledgehammer to my head, and I need you to hit me with it? Would he have agreed then? This is a doctor who behaved like a pusher. This is an extraordinary case of corruption, that a doctor could be bought off to take a drug-addled superstar and feed his addiction. If that's the defense's claim, that he gave him this in order to wean him off it, we're in for an electrifying trial, which I hope will put fame itself on trial. Because, Jane, in the final analysis, as you heard from Michael Slur's speech, and yes, that was Michael, because as you well know, Michael and I recorded 30 hours of conversations to create the book, The Michael Jackson Tapes. And Michael always said things like, I want to be the biggest, the best. Unfortunately, his insecurities could sometimes overtake him. He couldn't share the spotlight. He needed so much of it.
Did you ever hear him that highly intoxicated, Rabbi? Did you ever hear him slur his words like that?
I never heard him slur his words that bad or close to it, but I did definitely hear him slur words. I remember that he called me on a number of occasions. We were very close at the time, and he would say to me, Shmuley, I love you, I love you. And he would drag out the word, and it was disturbing. The affection was nice, but I knew that he was on stuff that was very bad for him. And I would tell him constantly that the way you deal with pain, Michael, is to address its root cause. It's not to use some topical cream or some prescription drug medication to numb the pain. And what Conrad Murray is
Rabbi, you know you can't reason with an addict, and I say that as a recovering alcoholic myself. Addicts don't listen to reason. They're defiant.
Jane,
Unless you
I have
do an intervention. Why couldn't the family do an intervention? We just heard Ramon Bain, who used to be Michael Jackson's spokesperson, say nobody could get through to him. He changed his phone number all the time. He was surrounded by these yes people. The family couldn't reach him. Nobody could reach him. Didn't the family try to stage an intervention? Let's talk about the reality here. This person was addicted to drugs, it would seem.
It would, I think if you look back on Anderson Cooper's show from your network a few years ago, you will see a debate that broke out, if I remember correctly, between me and Ramon Bain, maybe 5-6 years ago. She was Michael's spokesman at the time, and I said then that Michael is in danger of dying on the air. And she castigated me on the air and said, Rabbi Shmuley is irresponsible. He's using alarmist rhetoric. She was one of the people around him. What were these people doing on his payroll, knowing the problems he had and, with all due respect, misrepresenting his state? Michael was a man in serious, deep crisis. Everyone knew he could die at any time. And I'm amazed that all these people come out of the woodwork now when he is dead and 3 children are orphaned, instead of doing the responsible thing at the time. You may be right, Jane, that it's difficult to reason with an addict. But what is certainly true is that a moral human being has a responsibility to, at the very least, stop taking money from an addict and tell him, I will not stand here as your friend, counselor, advisor, and watch you drive your life off a cliff. At the very least, they could have done that. But all of these people were in his orbit while this happened. And that is the real tragedy of the story. And the fact that only one person on trial is remarkable, because a bunch more people ought to be answering for his death as well.